all of you. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another of one of our webinars in collaboration today with HSbooster, which is that today's webinar is in collaboration with both StandICT 2026 and HSbooster. There are two coordination and support actions. My name is Silvana Masella. I'm the Trust IT CEO and Technical Coordinator of StandICT 2026. And here in the slide, you see the partners who are part of StandICT. The title of the webinar is the EUOS Standards Academy towards the future of education on standardization. As we're all aware, the importance around education and standardization in Europe has become specifically high on the European Union's agenda. And today I'm delighted that we have a selected number of people who can speak as experts around this topic, and we'll kickstart already. The scope is clearly to identify how we can increase the need for standardization education in higher education institutes curricula. So this impacts on economic growth, the EU Green Deal and SDGs. If you see on the left-hand side, so these two initiatives have a strong component of education within their implementation plan. From the StandICT perspective, there is a Standards Academy that has already dedicated material that's been produced by different global standardization, specifically towards ICT. From the HSbooster CSA, there's the Training Academy, which looks to support bespoke hands-on material that we're going to hear from our speakers in a short while, specifically for organizations that are involved in H2020 and Horizon Europe research and innovation actions. So as you can see on the left again, from the StandICT point of view, we want to train the next generation of standards experts in ICT, okay? And within HSbooster, the idea and scope is to upskill the workforce in standardization practices, providing a wide range of educational resources on different types of various domains, which are not just ICT. So there are two different academies, but the mission clearly is one. Here in front of you, you will see our esteemed list of speakers who I won't introduce as they'll be coming up, but you can see exactly who they are in front of you. So yeah, and then I want to try and introduce everybody, but that's absolutely fine. You have the slide here, so we see the order coming up in a short while. What we did under the remit of StandICT at the beginning of the year, many of you might recall that we put together a workshop specifically towards the future of education on standardization. And there is the recording here, but we do have a very interesting report that came out, and it's on Zenodo with some recommendations on how to take this up in the future. A quick snapshot of what the observatory looks like, the EUOS within StandICT. You can see in the top left-hand corner, there's a database and repository of standards. You can do two things within StandICT, in addition to obviously applying to 9 of the open calls that we have for ICT European experts to work on their standardization efforts. One, you can join the standardization discussion through our technical working groups, and then you can actually explore the standards repository that are updated regularly, thanks to the work that's carried out by the technical working groups, where a set of different landscape analysis reports have been put together. And these, at the moment, we have over 2,800 standards that are listed and can be found here. I mentioned before there are open calls under StandICT. So what you can do and you're actually remunerated if your application is successful, where you find a drop-down list of priority topics under the related to the ICT standardization rolling plan. And we are encouraging applications to come in on the metaverse and digital product passport domains. So do apply. The call opened in May. It does close on the 10th of July. And we look forward to receiving many, many applications from you. Instead, from the HSbooster perspective, there are also open calls for EU and research and innovation projects. The open call topics are those that are listed here, but it's not a restricted list, obviously. And the calls provide support to ongoing and complete EU-funded R&I projects. And there are services that are offered to the projects completely free of charge, and you will get expert advice and hand-holding from experts in the specific domain area to help your project on your standardization pathway. You could be at the end, you could be at the beginning, or even in the middle, but it really, the booster really does help you in your project. And we recommend all projects take avail of this service, because we've seen that it can only help you, and any input you get from the experts to help boost the whole standardization exercise is a valid one. There's also an open call for experts who are working in standardization, who can meet and advise on the projects that are funded under Horizon Europe, the Digital Europe Programme, and H2020. And these are the types of contributions you see here that they can do. Just some housekeeping now for this particular webinar. So this will be recorded. So if any of you do have issues with this, then obviously we would invite you to leave the webinar. We hope you don't. We do like to encourage you to enter any questions in the dedicated Q&A. And please do feel free to write in the chat any information you think you'd like to share to the conversations that are happening, also to the speakers. We'd be happy, obviously, to keep this information, and then this provides input for our post-event report that will then circulate after the event. If you don't follow us, please do on our social media channels, and you can access the open call at the address you're given here. Okay, and I think with that, my presentation is over. Without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor to Carlos Lopez Rodriguez, who is our project officer for StandICT 2026 from DG Connect of the European Commission. So over to you, Carlos. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Silvana, and thank you to everyone that is attending this interesting webinar. And I'm going to share my slides immediately. So if I can get some confirmation that you can see them.
That's perfect.
Okay, thank you. So as Silvana said, I'm a policy officer in DG Connect and also project officer of StandICT. And today I'm going to give a quick overview of the importance of standard education and some of the initiatives from the European Commission of this interesting and relevant topic. So as you know, this topic has been identified as one of the pillars of the European Standardization Strategy, which was published a bit more than 1 year ago. So the last column in the slide is the pillar of education and skill for standardization, with some concrete actions there, like organizing standardization days. Very important to valorize the research and innovation results into standardization, so link more closely R&I and standardization, and also some initiatives for dissemination of training educational material. So here I will start a bit with some challenges for standards education, and this doesn't pretend to be let's say an exhaustive list. There might be other challenges, but some challenges that we identify for this topic are that there is, for example, no formal education on standardization. So if you follow master's or undergraduate studies, there is no with the exception of few universities, maybe there is no formal course on standardization. Also, there is a generational gap. They always say that people in the standardization world are male and with whitish hair. So we need more diversity of experts, and especially from the younger generations. So, of course, then we need to engage these young students, but not only students, but also young researchers and young professionals into the standardization world. Another challenge for developing training materials, perhaps that standardization, as you may know, is a very multidisciplinary topic. So it has a lot of technical aspects, but also negotiation skills are needed. So there is it's a multicultural environment often. So there is a need for some. Let's say it's not like one profile. You need to have a bit of a multidisciplinary approach to the topic, and of course. I think it's a very interesting topic because precisely because of this multidisciplinary nature, but we need maybe to promote more this standardization into the younger generations. So this is something important, also bringing back to the pillar of the strategy, how to bring closer research and innovation and standards. So we think that standards are the vehicle actually from having R&I results brought to the market. So it's important that we have a close link between the research, innovation, and standardization communities, so they can cross-fertilize between each other. For example, by using research and innovation results into standard, but also the other way around, by using the landscaping of existing standards as a, let's say, state of the art of the early research phases. So here I have drawn this slide a bit with how this process work in our view. In parallel, you have the research and innovation process, and also the development of standards. So first, of course, we can use this information of existing standards as a state of the art for our research actions. It's important to engage early to know what are the stakeholders involved in standardization, and to start to bring the ideas from the research projects into this standardization arena. Then, of course, it's good to know what are the insights on these standards, or what is going on in the let's say development of standards, not only standards that are already available, but also in the development of standards. Then go back with concrete technical input, so contributions, new working items, etc., into the standards technical committees. And then we can get, in the later phases, which are maybe less relevant for us, we can get technical and marketing sites. Then we can build our IP of our research results and bring it into the standards. And then at the end, we have, on one hand, a product that is developed from this research and innovation actions. And also we have standards. And I think for this specific purpose of education, it's quite important to focus on the early phases, and especially to bring this training and this educational material to the researchers that are engaged on this part of the flowchart. So for that, I think we have put forward in the Commission some the code of practice of standardization, which my colleague Gergo will elaborate further later on. But basically, gives recommendations to these three main groups, so to higher education institutes and research and innovation organizations, project partners, and policy stakeholders, on how to systematically engage in standardization, or actions that they should do to be more active in standardization. And this is based on some lessons learned from Horizon 2020 projects, but as I said before, my colleague Gergo will elaborate further on this. And something important also from our perspective with all this, let's say, training material and with all these educational aspects of standardization is to try to coordinate well the efforts, because we know that there is already some existing material, as Silvana will mention before. StandICT, of course, has a big repository of different educational material developed by different international and European standard development organizations. So I think it's good to coordinate efforts among all these actors that I list here, and apologies if there are other initiatives that are not mentioned in the slide, but this gives an idea of how this topic is scattered across different organizations, which is a good thing, but of course we have to be careful to not duplicate the efforts and to try to get the most out of each, let's say, specific action. And diving a bit deeper in the StandICT and the Standards Academy, as you know, this academy is a knowledge hub for the standardization ecosystem, and basically divides the different training material and educational material into 3 levels. So as a newcomer or as an expert in standardization, you can find the material that is more suitable for your needs. And also for this Standards Academy, in this Renew project in the StandICT 2026, let's say the key KPIs or the key objectives for the program are to improve the expertise and skills of EU experts involving, of course, in ICT standardization. So this project is focused on that ICT domain. Try to develop specific training material especially for SMEs and so on. So maybe the booster has more dedicated material for researchers and innovators from Horizon projects, but here we focus a bit more on SMEs and all digital sector, of course, and also performing this training through different workshops in these different groups, or beginner, medium, and advanced level. So let me go to the next slide. So other activities within the commission that we have for education, for standards education, for example, in the high-level forum, which is the expert group that, let's say, advises the commission on a higher level about standardization in general. There is one horizontal work stream actually on educational and skills. So actually there were different proposals submitted by different members, so by TU Eindhoven, by Sensenelec, and by Digital Europe, and with the support of several other members. So you see that the topic is quite high on the agenda of the high-level forum, and of course consequently on the commission agenda. So this let's say priority, I think will be defined in the course of this or next week. It will be endorsed by the forum, and then a workshop or several series of workshops will be organized on the topic. Then going also to some of the initiatives that I mentioned before, especially in Horizon Europe, there is a dedicated action specifically for education and standardization, which is to provide a strong and sustainable pool of experts for European standardization, attract the students of university or higher educational institutes. And you can see there in the slides what are the main expected outcomes of the project. The funding, the indicative funding is around 3 million euros, and at this moment, let's say the call is closed, the evaluation is ongoing, and if I'm not mistaken, the results will be communicated to the applicants within 1 or 1.5 months. So I think it's fair to say that beginning of next year, we can have this action or a project on this action up and running. And also, last but not least, we have also an internal group of, or an internal network of colleagues in the Commission, which is the EU Excellence Hub. So it's basically all colleagues in the Commission that are one way or another working on standardization. We are there, And of course, within this hub, there are several internal work streams, and one that is particularly relevant for this topic is the group of research, innovation, and standards. And we have colleagues there from, of course, DG Grow, who are coordinating all this initiative, also DG Connect, RTD, and the Joint Research Center. So we try to, let's say, try to systematically link better research and innovation and standardization. And just as a last message from my presentation, that this EU Excellence Hub is also a place to promote all this training material that is being developed by the different players that I've mentioned before. And I mean, the repository of the hub, or let's say the whole group is on the making, let's say. But if you have any material or any interesting input, please don't hesitate to send it to us, so we can also leverage inside the Commission all these good inputs. And with this, I come to the end of my presentation. So thank you for listening. I don't know if there are any questions on the chat, or if we have time for questions, but yep.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Thank you. Let's get a clap in there, all of us. Yay. We're slightly over. We do have people are already responding to the chat questions already, Carlos. In fact, what I would do is to invite questions in the Q&A, and I would like to ask my speakers here, if when you aren't speaking, do check that, and if you can reply, or if anyone online can anticipate answers already, that would be excellent. Now, Carlos, I said, is our PO. Thank you once again, Carlos, is our project officer from DG Connect. We're thrilled also to have the project officer online from HSbooster. So I'd like to thank Gergi and Carlos. There's also Raquel from HSbooster, extremely active and engaging project officers, which when you have that, it makes a difference with your project as well. So I do thank you also for taking the time and giving us always constructive inputs. So Gergi is, as I said, the policy officer at DG for Research and Innovation for the European Commission, and I'm going to pass you the floor directly. Thank you, Gergi.
Thank you very much, Silvana, and good afternoon, everyone who's listening or following us here in this webinar. So indeed, I'm from DG Research and Innovation, from a unit which is called Valorization Policies and IPR, a recently new unit to basically follow the trend which is basically given by the new framework program Horizon Europe, which is a very much impact-driven framework program. And our unit tries to demonstrate that investing in R&I cannot end at the project results, but it has to be ensured that these results are ready for market, or there shall be some tools that bring these results to the market. So yes, basically our policy work is strongly backed by two high-level policy or political initiatives, if I may so, of the Commission. Firstly, the European Research Area Policy Agenda, and secondly, the standardization strategy. On this slide, I'm focusing on the guiding principles, which is one of the actions taken forward by the European Research Area Policy Agenda. And the approach, how we approach in the Commission standardization, is very much reflected by the guiding principles for knowledge valorization, which was adopted by the Council, so it means by the Member States of the European Union, on 2nd of December last year, which means a very strong endorsement to the whole EU in terms of what to do in R&I valorization. So in a nutshell, the idea is to explore what the Commission could do in order to valorize results of excellent research projects, and to define different so-called valorization channels. And by this, we are broadening the innovation ecosystem and trying to stimulate and give motivation to different stakeholders to hop on the train and implement new approaches to knowledge valorization, including standardization. And these guiding principles are implemented by a set of codes of practice, from which one of the codes is the Standardization Code of Practice, which was adopted in a form of Commission recommendation on the 1st of March 2023. The next slide, you can see the other political determination for our work. Basically, if we could go one more down in the slides. Yes, thanks. That is the standardization strategy, which, as Carlos already referred to, made this approach on how the RNI policy and standardization policy interacts. Basically, this made this, I would say, symbiotic approach, or symbiotic connection, even more explicit. The approach which is taken by the strategy is simply that standardization boosts the market uptake of RNI results and contributes to better products and services. And there is a dedicated chapter on cutting-edge innovation that very explicitly fosters timely standards. And here you can see on this slide that basically there are two very important actions taken forward by the strategy. First, on the code of practice, which is the core of this presentation, and the standardization booster, which, as Silvana already referred to, is a service to projects very close to standardization activities. So if we could go to the next slide, I can give you a basic overview what the objectives are of this code of practice, which is basically the successful synchronization and systemic integration of RNI and standardization. And how this is done, the code provides guidance to researchers and innovators, either inside or outside the research project, to use standards as a powerful and effective knowledge valorization channel. And this is all done, as Carlos already referred to, by identifying elements of good practice for researchers and innovators dealing with standardization in the course of their RNI projects. So let me give you, on the next slide, a snapshot on the process. So what we did, we identified a large pool of Horizon 2020 projects with a text mining tool. And basically we used relevant keywords in documentations. And this sample was composed of about 2,200 Horizon 2020 projects, representing a large variety of projects, potentially from all sections of Horizon 2020. And the response rate was extremely high. So despite the fact that the survey was very profound, 46% of the addressees got back to us with a response. And this very profound data set was basically the primary input for the development of an analysis. And this scoping study, which was adopted in early 2022, was the ultimate input for the code of practice, which was co-created by different stakeholders, as you can see it on this slide. And as I already mentioned, the final output in the form of Commission recommendation was adopted on the 1st of March 2023. So if we go to the next one, this is going to be a repetition, but you could already see the scheme of or the structure of the document. Basically, so the recommendations are based on common success factors as identified by the scoping study. We try to look into what were those best practices, what were those patterns which led to success in projects funded by Horizon 2020, and we analyze how these patterns could be replicable in future projects. And on the conclusions were distilled in the recommendations, which were, as Carlos already mentioned, are clustered in 3 groups. So institutional level, project partner level, and the policy level. And the inclusiveness is very important because the analysis also showed that basically standardization in RNI is relevant from lower to higher TRL level, while, for instance, in lower TRL levels, it is important for terminologies and concepts, or methodology and testing. At later stage TRLs, it's more relevant for interoperability and performance of technology innovation. If we reach the next one, then just a snapshot, try to catch up with time. The first cluster at institutional level. So what should these different actors to do in order to first develop standardization policy which covers basically a needs assessment. So basically, it's very important. Standardization is not necessarily an obligation, of course, it's an opportunity. So needs assessment is crucial. And then a stakeholder management in the ecosystem. Then career development plans. More clearly or more explicitly, the recommendation proposes recognition based on the contributions to academia, contribution to standardization. Try to level it up to levels of, for instance, scientific publications. Then thirdly, education and training and standardization, which is covering the entire hierarchy of the institutions, higher education institutions. So it covers executive staff, researchers, and professors, and also gives a recommendation that standardization should be brought into as a subject into the curriculum of relevant universities. Then we also talk about the interlinkages between technology transfer officers and standardization bodies, and the setting of relevant indicators that the achievement of institutions become measurable, and that's going to be a base for further improvement. So as you see, education aspect is really strongly addressed at the institutional level by the code of practice. But of course, it has a very important aspect when we go to the project level, as you can see it on the slide, on the current slide, because the institutions, of course, are a part of the projects, and when they are part of the project, the first recommendation is that they should do a landscape analysis to do the mapping and check whether an existing or new standardization is more adequate for the valorization techniques. Because as I said, standardization is indeed a tool and not an objective, but a very important tool. And for this, a gap analysis and the benchmarking strategy, what they do for doing a landscape of existing standards and to see what new methodologies are out and how they should adjust their project proposal already upfront at the proposal phase into the standardization matrix is indeed very crucial. So if you're talking about a collaborative project, then it's very important that there's a common understanding and a strategic position on standardization within the consortium, and to involve partners with standardization experiences, including SDOs, and to try to converge the otherwise diverging timeline between the timelines of R&I projects and the timeline of standardizations, and therefore the recommendations is offering the creation of strings or clusters of projects. And finally, the final cluster, and on the next slide, recommendations at policy level, which is basically addressed at mainly member states level. It's basically to support by the national policies this approach, which is undertaken by the Code of Practice, and it has very strong focus on the needs of SMEs and startups, and also focusing on potential the development of national support schemes. And then finally, one recommendation is addressed at standard development organizations, both at European and national level, because their service portfolios, of course, could potentially be further aligned with R&I activities. On the next slide, you can just, I'm wrapping up here, you can just find some relevant links to the documentation around the Code of Practice, including this fact sheet, link to the guiding principles and to the Code of Practice itself. With this, I reached the end of my presentation, and I would get back the floor to Silvana. Many thanks.
That's brilliant, Georgi. Thank you so much. Thank you also to the flurry of comments and questions that are coming in, that are being picked up directly by our speakers, which is wonderful. Just as a reminder, the standardization booster has just undergone its first review, and results are coming in from the experts providing insights to the projects. So what we will be seeing in the coming weeks around the social media feeds are insights on here. So please make sure you follow these channels because this is important also from a policy point of view to understand exactly the needs from these projects and how we can perhaps address them in time or in advance. So this will also be coming out. Next up, I'm pleased to pass the floor to Brian McAuliffe. He's our outgoing, unfortunately, chair of our EUOS Standards Academy in StandICT 2023 and in part 2026, who's been absolutely instrumental in helping take forward the Standards Academy together with Ray Walsh from DCU. And he's also the Director of Technology Standards at HP. So over to you, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvana, for the introduction, and greetings, everybody. It's great to be here. So I have been for the last 3 years the chair of the Academy, and I'm going to just provide a high-level overview of what we've done and how we've gone about it. And I do plan to stay engaged with the next version of the Standards Academy. The reason I became the chair of the Academy is because I was a member of the StandICT external evaluation group, and I was on that committee group because of my involvement with ISO IEC JTC1, which is, you know, the home of a lot of the international IT standards. And I was asked to from the EAG then to chair this academy. So that's how I got here. So I have some time to catch up as well, which I'll do my best to do. So very quickly, the StandICT obviously has set up the EUOS, the Observatory for ICT Standardization. It is mainly populated by these technical working groups, I think of which there are 14. There's a snapshot of 8 or 9 of them there. And then in addition to that, we have the Standards Academy, which is kind of a technical working group, but much longer living. So it's for the duration of the 3-year project, whereas the technical working groups, you know, do some work, issue a report in 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and they finish. So that's where we are within StandICT. And our remit essentially was to think about educational aspects of the why and the how of standards and the standardization process for all the reasons outlined by our EC colleagues. The terms of reference we were given, and we were set up in April or so of 21, and we finished towards the end of last year, so about 18 months. And our primary goal was to curate the existing educational and training materials that are out there. We were not tasked with creating any new material. And we were briefed when informing the expert group to try and have participation from all types of stakeholders across the categories you see there. And in terms of governance, we reported regularly to the EAG and presented as we went on various StandICT workshops. And there was a question in the chat there a minute ago. People sometimes get confused about the differences or overlaps between StandICT Standards Academy and the HSbooster project. I mean, essentially the main difference is the HSbooster project is creating and developing new training materials for focused on EU funded projects. If that needs more detail, Ivana will certainly clear that up in her upcoming presentation. Whereas, as I said a minute ago, StandICT, our focus was to collate all the existing material that's out there and make that available in sort of a coherent manner. Also, I guess StandICT is focused primarily on, or exclusively, I should say, on ICT standardization, whereas HSbooster is horizontal, all types of standardization. Although there are overlaps too, because, you know, a lot of the educational material about the standardization process, of course, not only applies to ICT, but also to the horizontal. So our first task was to set up the expert group, and we had 16 members, give or take, and some people, you know, came and left and were replaced. And you can see there with the color coding, you know, we did actually tick all the boxes in terms of representation. About 35% SDO sort of input, and then, you know, around the 20% for societal stakeholders. You can see ETUC and ECOS there, and ANEC, of course, and about 20% also, you know, government stroke, you know, policymakers. and then around 15% for industry representation and academia. So it was a good good group and some very good experts that participated. ETSI is there as a member, and there was some engagement, but for now we agreed with ETSI that we could use the book that they produced a couple of years ago on ICT standardization, and that is available through the Academy as well. And you know, ETSI potentially will be more engaged with the next version of the project. So how do we go about it? So what we essentially decided to do was to build a to put together a portal which was provided one point of access for existing material, but to design the structure and the presentation of the material, we went about it kind of in two steps. So we assessed it from the perspective of, well, what do people need to know in terms of knowledge, skills, competencies, etc. And then, you know, which stakeholder, so for different stakeholder categories will need to know different types of information. So we built kind of a table this way, and in fact, Ivana, who's going to speak next, was instrumental in kind of putting this approach together. And then even within, as I said, for example, take the industry perspective, within a company, you know, the executive leadership needed to know more about, for example, the strategic connection between standards and business outcomes, whereas, you know, the technical staff participating will need to know more about how the SDO actually does its work. So starting from there, we then came across some existing work that was produced by an APEC subcommittee on standards and conformance, and this was in 2019, where they had a career roadmap and competence requirements made out for two types of stakeholders, companies or industry, and also on SDOs. But when we and subsequently that work was adopted via a workshop and turned into an ISO international workshop agreement, so it's out there published for anybody to see. So that was some very useful work, and we use a lot of the structure in that in terms of listing the competencies and skills, knowledges that would be needed for certain. So we did a mapping between the content of those documents and what we came up with as the requirements initially, and then once we did that, we got well, all the time we were gathering, of course, the existing material that was out there, and then we were in the back end of this portal that you see a screenshot of now, and there's the website address for it. For each piece of material, you know, we loaded it into the back end, ticking the right boxes, so that when you now go to search in the portal for information, you have ways to find relevant material for yourself. So in the next two slides, I'll just show you how we kind of structured it. So you can, of course, when you go to the portal, you can just put in a keyword and you know, like 5G or intellectual property rights or whatever into the search box, and it'll throw you up the relevant results. But you can also search by these filters here, and I've expanded them. You can see the under the topic, you know, and there's lots more. This is just a snapshot. Under format, so the different types of format are everything from, you know, book chapters to papers to videos, all types of content there. And then the source is wherever that information, whoever's the ownership of that information, and all these entities are happy for us to, you know, republish this information on their behalf. At the moment, it's all the information, I think, bar one or two items, is in English, but the plan is to also add these other languages here: French, German, Italian, and I'd say, you know, that's going to be a phase 2 effort. So when the other way of going searching for information is when you go to the website, there are these what we call starter packs. So if you're a total beginner, you just click on that section and you'll get some, you know, relevant material. And then of course there's an intermediate and advanced also, and a link at the bottom there for how to get there. And then when you select an item, this is the type of information you will see. These are the filter options you chose, in this case open source, open standards. you want a report, well, this is available in report format. And us as a group of experts, when we were loading this content, deemed this subject to be relevant for intermediate and advanced, but not for beginners. On the bottom right, you can see the source of the owner of the document. And of course, when you click on this tile, it'll bring you to the actual content. You can download and do whatever with you wish. So I'm wrapping up on this slide. What I should say also that at the moment in the portal, there are approximately 45 items loaded. It's still a work in progress. We have another 40 or 50 that we need to load in there. We're working on that in the background. So over the next weeks, that content will be loaded. But the idea is that it's a living portal, and we have to figure out with StandICT 2026 how we're going to keep that alive. Other areas we looked at the beginning of this were, okay, if we can build out a proper competency matrix for a particular stakeholder type, then maybe we can define education pathways through the material and potentially introduce things like certification schemes in there as well. And I've already mentioned multiple languages. So as I said, these questions are still to be answered and potentially will form part of the discussion under 2026 project. And that brings me to the end of my slot, and I think I've caught up there, Silvana, for us, and hopefully that was useful.
That was brilliant, Brian. I just wanted to get hang on a second. Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, you might recall, I said at the beginning, he is our outgoing chair of the EUOS, but with that, it's a nice opportunity, obviously, to say thank you once again on all the hours and hours of work you did and are doing, Brian. It's been incredible. And with that, I wanted to also introduce our new chair of the EUOS Standards, who takes the baton from Brian, who's Ivana Mihatovic, and she's our next speaker. And in fact, if you'd like to read up on both of our chairs' comments around the EUOS, then Gabriel is sharing with you a nice article that he put together that you can read. So Ivana is the chair of the EUOS Standards Academy in StandICT, and she is also a full professor at the University of Belgrade. And she has her HSbooster hat because she is one of the brains behind putting together bespoke training material that she does as part of her day job within the HSbooster project. So I'd like to pass you the floor, Ivana, so she comes to the table with great experience and skills. Thank you very much. And thank you once again, Brian, for all the hard work you've put in. And that was a really comprehensive overview and the distinction between the two projects in terms of the Academy. Thank you. Ivana, to you.
Thank you, Silvana. Thank you, Silvana. And thank you, Brian, for all what you have done, and I hope that you are staying with us and we will work together. So today my task is to explain you something more about HSbooster's Training Academy, sister training academy of StandICT, of EUOS Training Academy. So basically our task is to bring standardization closer to researchers. And our task in HSbooster Training Academy is to make standardization closer to researchers of different kinds through a wide range of training activities and tools like tailor-made tags, case studies, user stories, success stories, serious games, webinars, workshops, and training sessions. But mainly, what our Training Academy target group is. So basically, HSbooster Training Academy has specific but not homogeneous target audience. Our target audience are researchers from a variety of sectors. And what is particular challenge to develop Training Academy is that we are focused on researchers in project consortia. So there are a wide variety of group dynamic in project consortia. There are different types of project consortia, and real challenge is how to make standardization closer to all of them. In order to do our task, we developed specific methodology. We named it placing why before how, and we have the same three level as EUOS Academy. We have basic level, we have practice, intermediate level, and experience. Basically, what we want to achieve with researchers trained by our training academy is to achieve some sort of expertise, or to our researcher be able to influence process and outcomes of standardization. We make our methodology not completely, but real in let's say 80%. And HSbooster Training Academy published a training portal beta version on April 21st this year. So we have three levels: basic knowledge, standardization practice, and standardization experience. What we would like to achieve to increase knowledge, to develop more skills, and provide sense of experience to our research consortia and researchers. Basically, on our basic knowledge of standardization, we developed 70 modules for the beginner 1 and beginner 2 levels. We prepared written material, and all these modules can be separate courses, a short one, but can be used to combine specific courses for projects and for other needs of researchers. So basically, based on our models, which we have now materials, we can prepare courses in less time than we can do it starting from a clean slate. Standardization practice, we just elaborate 4 main topics at intermediate level 1, and we are developing by the end of the month, it will be developed our 5th. So there are a lot of answers on questions how to. At intermediate 2 level, we developed specific game. Its role play and simulation game can be played on site and online, and the aim of this game is to develop skills needed in standardization process. In this game, we are focused on developing argumentation skills, strategic positioning, building compromise, and common understanding. This game is developed in collaboration with House of Knowledge, and first HSbooster gaming session will be on June 20. If you have interest to try our game, please try, but we have a certain limitation. We can accept only 20 players at one game session. At our advanced level, we are focused on standardization experience. So at advanced 1 level, we are focused on success stories from research projects with experience in standardization. And at level advanced 2, we need to hear stories of standardization experts. For us, learning from experience is of highest importance because there is no evidence or there is no specific way or well-known way or established way how to teach research consortia. In order to move forward, we invited our projects, our experts to contribute to HSbooster Training Academy, to share their insight and contribute to improving Training Academy. However, we are learning from webinars that are already played, and we would like to prepare material related to this topic, both in HSbooster project and StandICT Walk Talk webinars. We would like to prepare their content in a way to be a training material. Our training plans are quite ambitious. So we have 3 main training series. First is Introduction to Standardization, second is Standardization in Practice, and third is Thrive on Standardization. So we are planning our next training session is dedicated to European
I think we've lost Ivana. I think I might be the only one who's lost her. Ivana, can you hear us?
We lost her.
Yeah, I have lost her as well.
Whilst I think what we should do to obviously save on time, whilst we get Ivana back on, I would suggest maybe moving to our last speaker. What do we think, Knut? Yeah, so we can obviously keep going unless we try. Yeah, okay, yeah, Ivana's had to go out and come back. Knut, do you have a slide deck? Okay, so whilst we set that up, I'd like to introduce Professor Knut Blind. He is with us as part of StandICT 2026. He's also part of the AG for HSbooster, which is wonderful because we do have this bridge with Knut. Knut is also the chair of the STAIR organization, and is heavily involved in the EUOS conference as well. So why don't I pass the floor to you immediately, Knut, and you've been heavily involved in the Code of Practice also report that was mentioned by Gergi before. Go, Knut, thank you. And then in the meantime, we'll see what's happening with Ivana. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Hang on a second, Knut. Can you put it in presentation mode, because we can see the double slides at the moment?
Yeah, I just see that this was not before. Let's see. Is this working?
I think it's the middle, the second option, Knut, on the second tab.
Okay, that's okay like that as well.
It's okay.
Yeah, we can read it.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, I really hurry up. First of all, thanks for all the other contributions, both from the European Commission, but also from StandICT 23 and Booster, and now 26 is building on what has been done before. And here our objective is really to now get into the production of trained experts in the field. We have also modules which are focusing on the ICT area, which is sometimes slightly different, in other contexts very different to other standardization areas. And in order to structure a little bit the work, we have a first kind of deliverable in the project. That's the strategy. That means it's about the vision, the mission, the status quo, what are our objectives, and an action plan. And I will really be very brief on that. That means the vision is really to make Europe as the leader in the global ICT standardization, also to protect and save the European value in the global context. And the other topic, which has already been mentioned by Silvana, is really that ICT standardization contributes to green and digital transition. That's the vision. The mission is then really to increase the number of experts which have the know-how in ICT standardization, and also broaden and update their knowledge base. And this is also a topic which is really very kind of recent. For example, the new rules regarding standardization patents have also implications on the standardization, but also the challenges of the digital and green transition, including net zero, is really then challenging the existing kind of system and practices, and therefore this has to be also kind of updated. It's a moving target. What's the status quo? I think we have heard a lot. One maybe additional issue is that also the Biden-Harris administration in the National Standardization Strategy just published in May has a focus on the education. That means also the other side of the Atlantic is considering this. There are different studies. Also, Ivana did some work. There was this report of StandICT 23, which also been mentioned by Silvana, and then the different work which has been collected in this really huge repository of StandICT 23, including the ETSI teaching material. I also did some work, and and has launched some further issues. We have the project Booster, StandICT.eu. And our objective is now to come up with the strategy. It will be also discussed at the EUOS conference end of June, and then we will develop the teaching modules in the medium terms, and we'll perform these kind of webinars. We have also then to consider what the new education project will do, and also contribute to really kind of the broadening of the base, aligned with what's Booster is doing especially until the end of the year. And in the strategy, we will have then different kind of actions, and the modules will kind of look like, that's a preliminary kind of idea, some basic models on the role of standardized ICT, the ICT standardization landscape, which is quite different to the rest of standardization. Then at the intermediate level, the issue of research, innovation, standardization in ICT, to bring this together in order also to harvest and to maybe implement some guidance and recommendation of the code of practice mentioned by Diego. Then patents and standards is certainly still a hot topic. And on the advanced level, we might also look at the open source linkages and interfaces, and also at the geopolitics. The target group is much broader, is ICT focused, therefore ETSI will play an important role, but also our other partner, Digital SME, and even kind of other organizations like the European Patent Office and others. Some guest speakers will be involved, and some already agreed, which makes hopefully the whole program very attractive. Yeah, and then also this might be then the base for what's coming up then in the following up StandICT 29. And that's it, very brief from my side. Thank you. And sorry for, I didn't manage the change.
No, that was good. Thank you for coming in very briefly to carry on from where Ivana took off. I'm pleased to see that we can see Ivana. Don't worry about the electricity problems. We do have you back. We do have just 3 slides left from you. If you can hear and see me, we'd be happy to then complete that. So Ivana, do you want us to share the screen, or do you want to do that? Let's just confirm that Ivana is with us. Ivana, can you hear me? Yeah, Ivana, can you hear us now? We can see you. No. Do we have Ivana's slides here that we can show? Don't worry, Ivana. Yeah, if you can put them out. And yeah, I have Nick online. So Nick is kindly going to present the final slides on your behalf, Ivana. Okay, so let's get the slides up. Again, who has them? Do you have a copy of them, or Gabriele? So we're sharing. Francesco's got those up. Okay, Nick, Nick can't talk, can he? Or can he? He just came in now to say that he would complete that. So whilst we're waiting, with the slide you see in front of us, as you can see, we like to have the UX part here, and we're asking also for inputs from you to improve the training academy. And then I'll let Nick say a few words now.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, okay, sorry. Hello there. So my name is Nick Ferguson. I'm the coordinator of HSbooster. So I can take over from Ivana where Ivana left off. So as Ivana was saying, the training academy has been built and really created specifically with the project community in mind. There's a lot of different information on there, really to make sure that project consortia are equipped better in terms of understanding standardization, and in terms of understanding standardization, and getting practical advice as well on how to contribute to technical committees as well. So it really is a nice introduction to standardization in terms of increasing awareness, and also in terms of understanding more and how you can actually contribute to technical committees, etc. So what an important thing is that the current content which is on the Training Academy is a first step, and an important engagement hook that HSbooster is trying to do is to recruit experts in particular, who are either already supporting Booster through its services, or other people in the community who are interested to actually contribute to the content in the Academy. And there's actually a place on the website where you can do that. So Ivana and her team are very much interested in expanding the content that we currently have. We have there now. As I said, sorry, I'm reading these. I've just been parachuted in, so you have to bear with me a little bit. But so tomorrow, on Thursday, we actually have the second of our training webinars, which looks at the European standardization landscape. We have two speakers, one from Ashok Ganesh from StandICT, and David Bosavic from ETSI, who are joining us. And this is part of a series of webinars which will be taking place throughout throughout this year. We have, as Ivana already mentioned, two other webinars at the end of June. One on this serious smiling game, which is very exciting, which is actually a game about improving soft skills and negotiation skills and standardization. But please do join us on Thursday, because it'll be a very interesting webinar indeed, and we've got some key speakers there. And there's a link in the chat which I added just a couple of minutes ago. And this is basically an overview of the various webinars which are taking place. All of these webinars are linked to content in the Training Academy, so it's pretty rich and a pretty ambitious training plan that we have, which really looks to, as I said, improve the way that standardization is acted upon, as Gergely said, as a tool for projects to valorize their results. So I think that's and here was some more of the webinars as well. Okay, thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Just we can mute on. Thank you, Nick, for coming in last minute to finish off Ivana's slides. We greatly appreciate that. In fact, we did put in the link to the registration for the Thursday webinar, so we do appreciate that. Don't worry, Ivana, these things happen all the time. Well, I would like to say that we have come to the end of the webinar with the same amount of people that were on from the beginning, and that's always a very important sign. So I'd like to thank all the speakers once again. We will obviously put up any of the presentations on our pages, both on HSbooster and StandICT. And as we did mention at the beginning, there is the recording for those of you who would like to come back to this. And we look forward to also having additional webinars also where other efforts where on standardization projects that are funded, that we can expand, obviously, the current list we have here to include all the new elements of funding around standardization and education going forward. And with that, I do have one last point. We have the Women in ICT Standards webinar, in fact, coming up very soon, that we'll share the details. This is happening on the 4th of July. So we did want to make sure a series of identifying expert females in the field was given the good visibility that they deserve too. So that's happening. So do book your space on that for the 4th of July. With that, I'd like to thank you once again for being here and for your contributions and participations again to the speakers. And I wish you all a wonderful afternoon and evening. You'll take care of yourselves. Thank you very much all. Good afternoon. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.